Well, hey garden friends, it's Destry. Welcome back to my Oregon yard. Today we're going to be looking at my Amaryllis plantings that I did a few weeks ago and talking about what worked well, what didn't go so well, and show you some of my successes and failures with my Amaryllis planting this year. So if you're new to growing Amaryllis, I would suggest watching the video that's down in the description that has me planting up some of my different Amaryllis plantings this year and giving you some instructions about how to put them into dormancy, how to bring them out of dormancy, and how to pot them up. But today I just wanted to share with you some of these beautiful blooms and just talk about where things are at. I'm about 4 weeks from my second planting of Amaryllis this year. And if you're an experienced Amaryllis grower, I hope that you'll stick around, check out some of these gorgeous blooms and some of the fun planters that I did them in this year. And as a quick bonus, I'll be also sharing with you my paper white bulbs and how those are coming along. So the first one I have to share with you is actually one of the very last ones that I purchased this year. And I just purchased it from a local garden center and they had already potted it up in potting soil. Now, one thing I noticed about this Amaryllis bulbs is that it was planted very deep. So I was a little concerned about it, but I didn't have time to adjust it. However, the bloom is absolutely gorgeous. And I believe this is the apple blossom variety. I've been trying to do a little research and get a little better about labeling my Amaryllis and also keeping track of the bulbs that I'm, trying to rebloom year after year. So I'm pretty sure that's this type. And I just love, these 5 gorgeous flowers that are all popping at once. Now this one will last for a few weeks and whatever, flower kind of blooms first is the one that will die off first. And you can just cut the ones that have died and enjoy the rest of the blooms as they develop. So this gorgeous Amaryllis here is from Longfield Gardens. And this year I did treat myself to a few bulbs. This one is the Arctic Nymph White. And one of the blooms has already faded and I've cut it off, but what a beauty it is. It's absolutely gorgeous. It has just the smallest tinge of pink, but pretty much a pure white Amaryllis. And you can see it's gotten very, very tall. So this one only produced 1 bloom stalk so far. I haven't noticed any others down here. So I've gotten 1 gorgeous tall bloom out of this variety. And of course I planted it up in this really cute metal sleigh. And so, and then put some pine cones and moss and top dressed it. And so it's just been a lovely display on my dining table. Now I did provide a stake and some support for this. And as these grow, they do need a lot of times some support because those blooms are so big and heavy at the top. But let's look at another one that I have that's really blooming gorgeous. So this beauty right here is also from Longfield Gardens, and this one is called Charisma. And it is absolutely stunning. Now it did have a 4th bloom head, but you can see there's one there that's kind of starting to fade. So one of the bloom heads has already faded and I've cut it off. But guess what, folks? That's not all for the show. We've got another bloom stalk coming up. So I'm really happy with this particular variety. It's just stunning. And I've just really enjoyed it this season. Another one from Longfield Gardens that seems to be doing really well is this Mandela. And you can see it's got some stalks coming up. So far, I don't see a bloom head yet, but I have high hopes for this one that it will produce a bloom stalk soon. So unfortunately, the last bulb that I got from Longfield Gardens, which is the one I was so excited about, it didn't work out. It actually got, I think, too much moisture, even though it was sitting quite up from the soil. I don't know, the bulb just didn't work. The first bloom head started coming up and then it just died. And then I realized the whole bulb was kind of squishy. And so it was a real bummer. And so unfortunately, I don't think that bulb is viable anymore. So I had to ditch that planting. So I think that's just a testament to sometimes you have high hopes for things and you plant things and sometimes things don't always work out, but don't take it personally. It wasn't me as the gardener or the houseplant, planter. It was just that bulb just wasn't ready to thrive. So the other group that I have that's doing so well are ones that I have overwintered and that are pushing bloom stalks. So here's this gorgeous one here. And nice tall stalk. Now this one does have a baby right here. It has a little secondary bulb, and I will be removing that I've come to the conclusion that I think those little baby pups that they put out can actually drain some of the energy from the mother plant. So I think when they become, able to pull apart, then I think we should pull them apart. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm going to try, and I'm going to show you one here in a minute that is exactly what I'm talking about. But this one here did really, really well. You can see it's adorned with some ornaments and some pine cones. And this container I actually got through Joann's online this year, and I got 2 of them, and they're really beautiful. Now this one didn't have drainage holes, but I didn't have any of that rotting problem. It just seemed to do really, really well. And the only thing that's a mystery is what color this is going to bloom, because this is one of the bulbs that I overwintered. So I'm sort of unsure about what exact variety it is. So this is my other bulb that I kept in the greenhouse all summer. It had beautiful, foliage. It really soaked up all that energy. Then I put it into my shed and forced it into dormancy, and it has rebloomed. So you can see this one is just cracking bloom. Hopefully I can get that in there. And I believe it's going to be a pink or a red variety. You can see it also got very tall. The bloom stalk is smaller than some of the ones that I purchased this year, but I'm still really thrilled that I was able to get this one to bloom again for me this season. I also have a couple others that have produced foliage. They are ones that I overwintered, but they haven't produced a bloom stalk yet. And one of those has 2 pups down here at the bottom. So I wanted to share that with you. Now these pups appeared last season, well actually mid-season, midsummer. And so I chose not to separate them from the mother bulb, but now I'm thinking that actually that probably would have been beneficial because this one has not produced a bloom stalk. So it's got this beautiful foliage and I can just enjoy it as a house plant, but so far, at least I should say, I don't see a bloom stalk developing. So that means it either didn't get enough nutrients, it didn't get enough time in dormancy, or it could possibly be because the pups are draining some of that energy from the mother plant. So again, that's just a theory that I have, but I think I am going to be removing those from this bulb if I try to get it to bloom again next season. And then this one here is also an example of one that I, grew, put into dormancy, and it has not produced a bloom stalk. I've also noticed that the tips are getting a little brown. So there's nothing wrong with that. I can just leave this foliage up. I can put it in a sunny spot and just enjoy it as a house plant. It just means that this particular season, there is no bloom. So it's not like the plant is, it doesn't detriment the plant in any way. If you think about the bloom, that's like its extra energy that it has, right? And so that just means that that bulb just didn't get quite enough of what it needed to bloom another time. So for these 2, I'm just going to keep them in my greenhouse and we'll see what happens next season. And another planting that honestly I didn't catch the planting of it on video, but I did plant some paper whites. And what I did is I planted them in a nice tall glass container, and that kind of helps because paper whites get very tall and they can kind of get a little straggly. In fact, usually I put a ribbon or a tie around mine, but this planting seems to be working really well. And look how beautiful the root system is to be able to, again, see that with kids or, just enjoy it. I think it's so beautiful and it really reminds me of spring. So this particular potting of 4 paper whites already has 1 bloom stalk there that's going to be blooming anytime, and I'm fully confident that the others will bloom as well. So usually paper whites can put out at least 1 bloom, if not more, and the foliage will stay nice for several weeks in a vase like this as long as it's kept watered. But then after a while, the foliage will start to yellow and wilt, and that's just a sign that that bulb, again, has done its job blooming, and now it's time for it to go into dormancy. Now, normally I don't keep my paper white bulbs from year to year, but that's definitely a personal preference. You could definitely try to do that. You would just need to do a similar process, let the foliage grow, soak up the nutrients, and then force into dormancy, or you could let them go into dormancy naturally. Another thing you could do with paper whites, depending on what zone you live in, is when they're done blooming, you can plant them in your yard or outdoors. So this is the second paper white planting that I did, and you can see I've got some blooms that are coming here. And this one has gotten a little bit of that flopping. So I might just take a ribbon and just kind of tie that up. But this one has all of these in here. and it is doing so well. I did water it again today because these will, require a lot of water as they're growing. You want to keep them nice and moist. It even doesn't hurt if there's a little standing water in the bottom. In fact, you can even grow these in like marbles or pebbles or something like that. They don't even have to be in true potting soil. I should also say that the Amaryllis, after they're done, depending on your zone, you can also oversummer them in the ground. I've been told that that's really great because then they can get nice and big. For me personally, I just don't have room in my yard, so I just keep them potted up throughout the summer. So that's going to be it for my Amaryllis update. Please, if you haven't seen the first part of the video where I plant all these up, I will link that video in the description below. And I hope that you're having a great start to your new year, and I hope that this video gave you some inspiration. It's not too late to plant up some Amaryllis or some paper whites this season. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and if you need me, I'll be doing some gardening. Bye guys.